The warning alarm echoed through the mining facility on Kepler 442b for the third time that morning. Veltar pressed his six-fingered hand against the cool metal wall and closed his large golden eyes. The Zephyrian administrator had hoped the sensor readings were wrong, but each scan confirmed the terrible truth. A Krillian war fleet was coming. Veltar walked quickly through the corridors of the main control center. His blue-tinted skin showed the stress lines that appeared when his species felt extreme worry. Other Zephyrians moved around him with the same concerned expressions. Their peaceful mining colony had never faced anything like this before. Administrator Veltar called out Keshra from the communication station. The young technician's voice shook slightly. The long-range sensors show 200 ships approaching our system. They will arrive in 72 hours. Veltar nodded slowly. 200 Krillian warships. His colony had 12 security drones designed to push away small asteroids. The comparison was almost funny, except nothing about this situation made him want to laugh. Have you sent evacuation orders to the outer mining platforms? Veltar asked. Yes, sir. The transport ships are already moving people to the main facility. But Administrator Keshra paused and looked at the readings again. Even if we gather everyone here, our shields can only protect us for maybe 6 hours against that kind of firepower. Veltar understood. The Krillians were known throughout the galaxy for their brutal military campaigns. They took what they wanted and destroyed anything that got in their way. His people were miners and philosophers, not warriors. They had never needed to be warriors before. What about the other colonies in nearby systems? Veltar asked. Can they send help? Keshra checked her communication logs. I sent distress signals to 15 different systems. Most have not replied. The 3 that did respond said they cannot spare any ships. They are too afraid of the Krillians. Veltar felt his heart sink. Both of them beat faster as the reality of their situation became clear. His people were alone, facing certain destruction, and nobody in the known galaxy wanted to risk helping them. Sir, another technician called out from across the room. I have an idea. What about the new species, the humans? They joined the trade consortium 6 months ago. Veltar had heard about the humans. They were a young race from a small system called Sol. Their territory was tiny compared to other galactic powers. Most species considered them unimportant, barely worth noticing. But they had been polite during trade meetings and seemed eager to make friends. Do we have their communication codes? Veltar asked. Yes, sir. I can send a message to their nearest diplomatic station. Veltar thought for a moment. What did he have to lose? In 72 hours, his colony would be destroyed, whether he asked for help or not. At least trying to contact the humans gave his people some hope. Send the message, he decided. The communication went out across space, traveling through the quantum relay networks that connected the galaxy. On a small space station orbiting a minor human colony world, Captain Lisa Parker received the distress signal while reviewing trade reports. Lisa was a tall woman with short brown hair and kind eyes. She had volunteered for diplomatic service because she enjoyed meeting new species and learning about their cultures. She had never expected to receive a desperate plea for military help. The message from Veltar was simple and direct. His colony was about to be attacked by a large Krillian fleet. They had no way to defend themselves. Could the humans provide any assistance? Lisa immediately forwarded the message to Earth Command and requested permission to respond. While she waited, she researched everything the human databases contained about Krillians and Zephyrians. The Krillians were bad news. They had been expanding their territory for over 200 years, always taking what they wanted by force. Their military technology was advanced, and their tactics were ruthless. Most galactic powers avoided fighting them directly. The Zephyrians were the opposite. They were peaceful miners who had never hurt anyone. Their civilization was built around finding valuable minerals and trading them fairly with other species. They were known for their wisdom and their beautiful philosophical writings about the nature of existence. Lisa felt angry reading about the situation. A peaceful species was about to be destroyed by bullies, and nobody wanted to help because they were afraid. It reminded her of situations from Earth's history that she had studied in school. Her communication panel beeped. Earth Command was calling her back. "Captain Parker," said Admiral Jake Sullivan's voice over the secure channel. "We received your report about the Zephyrian situation. What is your assessment?" "Sir, it's exactly what it looks like. A peaceful mining colony is about to be wiped out by Krillian raiders. They have no military capability, and no one else is willing to help them." There was a pause. Lisa could hear voices talking in the background, but she could not make out the words. "Captain," Admiral Sullivan said finally, "please respond to the Zephyrian administrator. Tell him that humanity will send what support we can provide. You are authorized to speak for Earth in this matter." Lisa felt a mix of pride and worry. She was proud that her species was willing to help strangers in need, but she was worried about what they could actually do against 200 Krillian warships. "Sir, what exactly should I tell them we can provide? Our fleet is much smaller than the Krillian force." "Just tell them help is coming, Captain. Leave the details to us." The communication ended, leaving Lisa with more questions than answers. But she had her orders. She opened a channel back to Kepler 442b and waited for Veltar to respond. "Administrator. Veltar, this is Captain Lisa Parker of the Human Diplomatic Service. We received your distress signal." Veltar's voice came through clearly, though Lisa could hear the strain in it. "Captain Parker, thank you for responding. I know your species is small and far away. Any help you can provide would be greatly appreciated." "Administrator, I want you to know that humanity takes threats against peaceful species very seriously. We will send what support we can. Our military commanders are already making preparations. How many ships can you send?" Veltar asked. Lisa realized she had no idea. Admiral Sullivan had not given her any specific numbers. "I cannot give you exact details yet, but I promise you will not face the Krillians alone." After ending the communication, Lisa sat back in her chair and wondered what Earth Command was planning. She hoped they had some kind of clever strategy, because facing the Krillians in direct combat seemed like suicide for a young species like humanity. On Kepler 442b, Veltar shared the news with his staff. The humans were sending help, though nobody knew what kind of help or how much. It was better than nothing, but Veltar tried not to get his hopes up too high. The countdown continued. 69 hours until the Krillian fleet arrived. Supreme Commander Thegmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Render, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. His red eyes glowed with satisfaction as he reviewed the tactical display showing his fleet's progress toward the Kepler 442 system. 200 of the finest Krillian warships moved through space in perfect formation. Each ship was a weapon of destruction, built for one purpose: conquest. The smallest vessel in his fleet could destroy a city. The largest could crack a planet's surface. Thak single quotes more was proud of his fleet. He had spent 15 years building his reputation as one of the most successful Krillian commanders. 43 worlds had fallen to his forces. 43 civilizations had learned to fear the sight of his ships approaching their systems. "Commander," his tactical officer approached with a datapad. "We have completed our intelligence review of the target system." Thegmer took the pad and read the information. The Zephyrians were even weaker than he had expected. Their entire defense force consisted of mining equipment and security drones meant for moving asteroids. It would hardly qualify as target practice for his gunners. What? About their allies? Thakmer asked. Have any other species responded to their distress calls? Our intelligence network reports that most species have ignored their pleas for help. The few that responded declined to provide assistance. However, the officer paused. However what? Thakmer's voice carried a dangerous edge. There is one species that may have promised support, the humans. Thakmer laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the bridge. The humans? You mean that primitive species from the Sol system? They barely have 20 star systems under their control. Yes, Commander. According to our databases, they are a young species with limited military capabilities. Their largest ships are smaller than our escort vessels. Thakmer studied the human data on his screen. The information was not impressive. Humans had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. Their technology seemed adequate, but not advanced. Their military appeared to be spread thin across their small territory. How many ships do intelligence estimates suggest they might send? Thakmer asked. Perhaps 10 to 20 vessels at most. Commander. Probably outdated patrol ships or converted cargo vessels. Nothing that would pose a real threat to our forces. Thakmer dismissed the human threat from his mind. 20 human ships against 200 Krillian warships was not even worth considering in his battle plans. If the humans were foolish enough to interfere, his fleet would destroy them quickly and move on to the main target. Continue on course, he ordered. Maintain battle formation. We will arrive at Kepler 442b in 48 hours. Meanwhile, on the mining colony, Ben Carter wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked alongside Zephyrian engineers in the facility's power core. The human engineer had been stationed on Kepler 442b for 8 months, helping to improve the mining equipment's efficiency. Ben was a practical man who believed every problem had a solution, if you were willing to work hard enough to find it. Right now, he was working on what seemed like an impossible problem, turning mining lasers into weapons. The power coupling will not handle the increased energy load, explained Nethva, the Zephyrian chief engineer. Our mining lasers were designed for precision cutting, not combat. Everything's a weapon if you use it right, Ben replied, adjusting the power flow controls. We don't need these lasers to destroy Krillian ships. We just need them to do enough damage to make the Krillians think twice. Ben had been in contact with other humans throughout the galaxy since the crisis began. Dr. Helen Morris, the xenobiologist working in the research section, had been sending regular reports to Earth about the situation. Ben did not know what those reports contained, but Helen seemed confident that help was coming. How much time do we have to complete these modifications? Nethva asked. 48 hours, Ben said. Maybe less if the Krillians decide to arrive. Early, they worked in silence for several minutes, both focused on the complex technical challenges. Ben had to admit that Zephyrian engineering was impressive. Their mining equipment was more advanced than anything humans had built. The problem was that advanced mining tools were still just tools, not weapons of war. Dr. Helen Morris walked into the engineering section carrying a communication pad. She was a thin woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes who had spent most of her career studying alien cultures. Her calm demeanor helped keep everyone focused during the crisis. Ben, I just received another message from Earth Command. Helen said, they want a detailed report on the colony's defensive capabilities. That's easy, Ben replied without looking up from his work. We have none. They also want to know about the colony's strategic value and the surrounding space terrain. Ben finally stopped working and looked at Helen. Why would they need that information? Are they planning some kind of rescue mission? Helen smiled slightly. I think Earth Command is planning something, but they have not shared the details with me. I do know that Captain Parker's message was forwarded directly to Admiral Sullivan himself. Admiral Sullivan? Ben knew that name. Jake Sullivan was the highest-ranking officer in the Earth Defense Force. If he was personally involved in the situation, it meant humanity was taking the Krillian threat very seriously. "Keep working on those mining lasers," Helen said. "But I have a feeling we might not need them." As Helen left to continue her coordination efforts, Ben wondered what she meant. The Krillians were bringing 200 warships. Even if humanity sent their entire fleet, they would be badly outnumbered. Unless Earth had some secret weapons that nobody knew about, Ben could not see how this situation would end well. Across the galaxy, Krillian intelligence officers were also trying to understand human capabilities. Their information came from trade contacts, diplomatic meetings, and surveillance of human activities in neutral systems. Everything they learned confirmed their initial assessment. Humans were a minor species with limited resources and military power. Their ships were functional, but not particularly impressive. Their tactics seemed straightforward and predictable. What the Krillian intelligence officers did not understand was how quickly humans could mobilize their forces. Most galactic species required weeks or months to organize large military operations. The bureaucracy involved in moving ships across vast distances usually created long delays. Humans seemed to operate differently, but the Krillians did not have enough data to understand why. Back on the Voidrender, Thakmer was making final preparations for the attack on Kepler 442b. His battle plan was simple and direct. The fleet would emerge from hyperspace at the edge of the system and advance toward the mining colony in standard formation. The Zephyrians would be given one chance to surrender. If they refused, Thakmer would demonstrate Krillian power by destroying their orbital facilities. After that, surrender would be their only option if they wanted to survive. "Commander," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from Krillian High Command." "Put it through," Thakmer ordered. The image of Fleet Admiral Gorthik appeared on the main screen. The elderly Krillian scarred face showed the results of decades of combat experience. "Thakmer, High Command has received reports that humans may interfere with your mission. Are you prepared to deal with this complication?" "Yes, Admiral. My fleet can handle whatever pathetic force the humans might send. They are not a threat to Krillian military superiority. See that you prove that point convincingly. The galaxy is watching to see how we respond to interference from minor species. Make sure the lesson is clear." The transmission ended, leaving Thakmer even more determined to crush any human ships that dared to challenge his fleet. The reputation of the Krillian military was at stake. 20-4 hours remained until the Krillian fleet reached Kepler 442b. On the mining colony, final preparations continued as everyone waited to see what kind of help humanity would provide. The answer to that question was already traveling through space toward them, but it was an answer that would shock everyone involved. The space around Kepler 442b had been quiet for millions of years. Only the occasional mining ship or supply transport disturbed the peaceful darkness between the planets. That silence was about to end in a way that would change galactic history. Forever, Veltar stood in the colony's observation deck, watching the stars through the reinforced windows. In 12 hours, the Krillian fleet would arrive. His people had done everything they could to prepare, but everyone knew it would not be enough. The modified mining lasers that Ben Carter had worked so hard to create might delay the inevitable for a few minutes. The colony's shields could protect them for perhaps an hour. After that, the Zephyrians would have to surrender or die. Administrator Keshra called from the communication station. "I am detecting massive spatial distortions at the edge of our system." Veltar felt his heart skip. "The Krillians are arriving early?" "No, sir. The distortions are coming from the opposite direction. Something very large is about to exit hyperspace." Veltar hurried to the sensor displays. The readings showed energy, patterns unlike anything he had ever seen. Whatever was approaching was enormous, much larger than any single ship should be. Could it be a space station? Asked Dr. Helen Morris, who had joined them on the observation deck. The energy signature is wrong for a station, Keshra replied, her voice filled with confusion. It looks like ... It looks like multiple ships, many ships. More ships than I can count. The spatial distortions grew stronger. Space itself seemed to bend and twist as something forced its way through the barriers between dimensions. The colony's lights flickered as the distortions interfered with their power systems. Then it happened. Reality tore open like a curtain, being pulled aside, and through that opening came the most incredible sight anyone in the Kepler 442 system had ever witnessed. Ships poured through the hyperspace gateway in an endless stream. Dozens of ships. Hundreds of ships. More ships than anyone had imagined possible. They were human ships, but they were nothing like the small patrol vessels the Krillians expected. These were massive warships that dwarfed anything in known space. The lead ship was so large it could have been mistaken for a small moon. Veltar stared in complete shock. How many ships are there? Keshra worked frantically at her console, trying to count the vessels as they continued to emerge from hyperspace. I count over 1,000 ships, Administrator. And they are still coming. 1,000? Veltar could barely speak the words. Doctor. Helen Morris smiled for the first time in days. I told you Earth Command was planning something. The human fleet spread out across space in perfect formation. Every ship was in exactly the right position, as if they had practiced this maneuver 1,000 times. The largest vessels took positions at the center, while smaller ships formed protective screens around them. But these were not just warships. Mixed in with the battleships and cruisers were hospital ships, supply vessels, construction ships, and even what appeared to be mobile shipyards. This was not just a military response. This was an entire civilization mobilizing for war. Aboard the flagship Scifiance, Admiral Jake Sullivan watched the tactical displays as his fleet completed its deployment. The massive command ship was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level a continent. It was also equipped with the most advanced command and control systems humanity had ever built. Fleet deployment complete, Admiral, reported Captain Amy Rodriguez from the tactical station. All ships report ready for combat operations. Excellent work, Captain. Open a channel to the Zephyrian colony. The communication went through instantly. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on screens throughout the mining facility, showing a man in his 50s with gray hair and determined eyes. Administrator Veltar, this is Admiral Jake Sullivan of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. Veltar struggled to find words. Admiral Sullivan, we expected perhaps a few ships. You brought an entire fleet. When? Someone calls for help. Administrator, humanity responds with everything we have. No one threatens innocent people, while Earth stands ready to defend them. The Admiral's words were broadcast across the entire system. Every ship, every communication. Array, every listening post heard humanity's declaration. The message was clear and simple. Earth would not allow bullies to destroy peaceful civilizations. On the other side of the system, Supreme Commander Thakmer watched the human fleet deployment with growing horror. His sensors showed over 1,200 ships, many of them larger than his own flagship. This was impossible. His intelligence reports said humans had a small, weak military. Sir, his tactical officer's voice shook with fear. Our fleet analysis indicates the human ships are technologically superior to our vessels. Their energy signatures show weapon systems we do not understand. Thakmer stared at the tactical display. 1,200 ships against his 200. Even if human technology was inferior, which it clearly was not, the numbers alone made victory impossible. How did they mobilize so quickly? Thakmar demanded. It should take months to gather a fleet this size. Unknown, sir. Human logistics. Capabilities appear to be far beyond our intelligence estimates. Back on the mining colony, Ben Carter watched the human fleet through the observation windows and felt proud of his species for the first time in months. Earth had not just sent help, they had sent everything. Ben, Dr. Ellen Morris approached. With a communication pad. Admiral Sullivan wants to speak with you. Ben took the pad and activated the secure channel. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the small screen. Engineer Carter, this is Admiral Sullivan. We understand you have been working to modify the colony's defenses. Good work, but you can stand down now. We will handle things from here. Admiral, how did you get here so fast? And how did you bring so many ships? Admiral Sullivan smiled grimly. When that distress call reached Earth, every human in the galaxy heard it. Military personnel cut their leave short and reported for duty. Civilian ship crews volunteered to transport supplies. Entire families volunteered to relocate to help rebuild this colony after the battle. Ben realized what he was seeing. This was not just the Earth Defense Force. This was humanity itself, responding to a cry for help from strangers. Admiral, Ben asked, what happens now? Now we show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens innocent people. The Krillians wanted a fight. They are about to get one they will never forget. Throughout the system, the two fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. The Krillian force, which had seemed so overwhelming just hours before, now looked small and insignificant compared to the human armada. On dozens of human ships, Marines like Colonel Danny Wright prepared for possible ground combat. Fighter pilots like Lieutenant Kate Adams ran final checks on their spacecraft. Medical teams led by Commander Rachel Torres prepared to treat casualties from both sides. But it was not just military personnel. The human fleet included teachers who would help rebuild the colony's schools, engineers who would construct new defenses, and farmers who would establish food production systems. Earth had not come just to fight a battle. They had come to solve the problem permanently. Admiral Sullivan opened a communication channel to the entire system. His voice reached every ship, every station, and every listening device within 100 million kilometers. This is Admiral Jake Sullivan of the United Earth Defense Force. To the Krillian fleet, you have entered this system with the intention of destroying innocent people. That will not be allowed to happen. You have one chance to withdraw peacefully. If you choose to fight, you will face the full might of humanity united in defense of the innocent. The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in across the system. To all other listeners throughout the galaxy, let this moment serve as notice. Humanity will not stand by while peaceful civilizations are destroyed by those who choose violence. Over diplomacy, we will defend the innocent wherever they may be, with whatever force is necessary. Supreme Commander Thakmar knew he faced an impossible choice. Retreat would mean admitting defeat and losing face before the entire Krillian military. But fighting would mean leading his fleet into certain destruction. His pride as a Krillian warrior demanded that he fight. The tactical reality demanded that he retreat. In the end, pride won over wisdom. All ships, Thakmar broadcast to his fleet, prepare for battle. We will show these humans what Krillian military power can accomplish. The die was cast. The greatest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. The first shot came from the Krillian flagship Void Render. A massive beam of red energy cut through space toward the human fleet. Bright enough to be seen with the naked eye from the mining colony below Dot, the beam struck the shields of the UES, defiance and scattered harmlessly into space. Admiral Sullivan did not even feel the impact on his massive ship. All ships. Admiral Sullivan's calm voice echoed across the human fleet's communication network. You are authorized to return fire. Show them what happens when bullies pick on innocent people. What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. The human fleet did not charge forward in a straight line like most species would do. Instead, they moved like a living thing, with different groups of ships flowing around each other in complex patterns that confused the Krillian. Targeting Systems. Captain Steve Harrison commanded a squadron of 12 stealth frigates that seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. His ships would strike at Krillian vessels from impossible angles, then vanish before the enemy could return fire. Target their communication arrays first, Harrison ordered his squadron. If they cannot talk to each other, they cannot coordinate their attacks. The human stealth ships moved through the battle like shadows, striking vital systems and disappearing before the Krillians could react. Within minutes, the Krillian fleet was having trouble coordinating their movements. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Kate Adams led a swarm of fighters and drones from the carrier U.E.'s Enterprise. Her tactical display showed hundreds of small craft, moving in precise formations, overwhelming the Krillian point defense systems. Stay in formation, Kate commanded her pilots. Remember, we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy. The fighters attacked like angry bees, too many and too fast for the larger Krillian ships to target effectively. They struck at weapon systems, shield generators, and sensor arrays, methodically reducing the enemy's ability to fight back. But it was the human capital ships that truly shocked the Krillians. Instead of following predictable battle patterns, the human commanders constantly changed their tactics. Captain Chris Thompson would lead his battle group in one direction, then suddenly reverse course and attack from a completely different angle. Major Lisa Johnson coordinated the movements of 30 destroyers that moved together like a school of fish, supporting each other and covering each other's weaknesses. When one ship took damage, the others would move to protect it while it retreated for repairs. Supreme Commander Thekmer watched his carefully planned battle turn into chaos. His ships were designed to fight enemies that followed standard military tactics. The humans seemed to make up new tactics every few minutes. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we have lost contact with the third battle group. Their communication systems have been destroyed. What about the second group? Thekmer demanded. They are reporting heavy damage to their main weapons. They are requesting permission to withdraw. Thekmer felt the battle slipping away from him. His ships were more powerful than individual human vessels, but the humans fought with a coordination and creativity that his forces could not match. Turning point came when Admiral Sullivan executed a maneuver that military academies would study for centuries afterward. He divided his fleet into 3 groups and sent them in different directions around the ON Systems asteroid belt. The Krillians thought the human fleet was retreating. Thekmer ordered his ships to pursue, hoping to catch the humans in scattered groups that he could defeat separately. Instead, the 3 human groups used the asteroids to hide their movements and surrounded the Krillian fleet completely. The hunters had become the hunted. All ships, Admiral Sullivan broadcast, execute Operation Guardian Angel. The human ships emerged from behind asteroids and struck the Krillian fleet from every direction at once. The perfectly coordinated attack was devastating. Krillian ships found themselves taking fire from multiple angles with no way to retreat. Captain Peter Davis led a group of heavy cruisers that punched through the Krillian formation like a spear, dividing their fleet into smaller groups that could be defeated individually. Commander Diane White's medical ships moved behind the battle lines, ready to rescue survivors from both sides. On the mining colony, Veltar and his people watched the battle through their telescopes and sensor arrays. What they saw was incredible. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship perfectly coordinated with all the others. How are they doing this? Veltar wondered aloud. Ben Carter, who had been monitoring human military communications, had part of the answer. Their command and control systems are more advanced than anything I have ever seen. Every ship captain can see what every other captain is doing in real time. Dr. Helen Morris nodded. But it is more than just technology. Look how they protect each other. When one ship is damaged, the others immediately move to help. They fight like a family protecting their home. The Krillians, by contrast, fought like individual warriors who happened to be in the same battle. When a Krillian ship was damaged, the others continued their own attacks instead of helping. This made them predictable and vulnerable to human tactics. As the battle continued, Krillian ships began surrendering one by one. The human response to these surrenders surprised everyone, including the Krillians themselves. Instead of destroying the surrendering ships, human vessels would surround them and offer medical assistance. Commander Rachel Torres led hospital ships that treated wounded Krillians with the same care they gave to human casualties. "This is Admiral Sullivan to all Krillian vessels," the human commander broadcast. "Any ship that lays down its weapons will be protected and their crews will receive medical treatment. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to stop you from destroying others." Supreme Commander Thekmer watched his fleet fall apart around him. More than half of his ships had been destroyed or forced to surrender. The remainder were scattered and disorganized, no longer capable of coordinated resistance. His own flagship was badly damaged. The Void Render's main weapons were offline, and his shields were failing. Emergency lights flickered on the bridge as damage control teams tried to keep essential systems running. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a direct transmission from the human flagship." Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. The human commander looked tired but determined. "Commander Thekmer, your fleet is defeated. You can continue fighting and watch more of your people die, or you can surrender and allow them to live. The choice is yours." Thekmer looked around his damaged bridge. His crew was wounded and exhausted. His ships were destroyed or scattered. The battle was lost, and continuing to fight would only mean more death for his people. For the first time in his military career, Thekmer made a decision based on mercy instead of pride. "All Krillian ships," he broadcast on an open channel. "This is Supreme Commander Thekmer. Cease fire and surrender immediately. The battle is over." The shooting stopped. Across the battlefield, human ships moved to assist damaged Krillian vessels. Medical teams prepared to treat the wounded from both sides. Search and rescue operations began immediately to find survivors from destroyed ships. Admiral Sullivan opened another system-wide broadcast. "This is Admiral Sullivan to all ships and stations. The Battle of Kepler 442 is over. All vessels will now participate in humanitarian operations to assist the wounded and displaced. We came here to protect innocent life, and that protection extends to everyone in this system. The greatest space battle in galactic history had ended not with the complete destruction of the losing side, but with the winners offering help to their defeated enemies. It was a lesson that would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come." On the mining colony below, Veltar and his people watched human ships beginning the work of rescue and reconstruction. They had asked for help against impossible odds, and humanity had responded with something far greater than military support. They had responded with hope. 3 days after the battle, Supreme Commander Thekmer sat in a small meeting room aboard the UES Defiance. His hands were not chained. No guards stood behind him. The humans had treated him as an honored guest rather than a defeated enemy. Admiral Sullivan entered the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. He offered one to Thekmer, who accepted it cautiously. The warm drink was unlike anything the Krillian had tasted before, but it was surprisingly pleasant. "Commander Thakmer, Admiral," Sullivan began, sitting across from him at the simple table. "I want to discuss the future of your fleet and your people." Thakmer had expected demands for tribute or territory. Instead, Admiral Sullivan slid a datapad across the table. The document displayed on the screen was not a surrender treaty. It was a medical report. "This shows the status of your wounded crew members," Admiral Sullivan explained. "Our medical teams have treated over 3,000 Krillian personnel. All of them will make full recoveries." Thakmer stared at the report in confusion. "You saved my people's lives." "Why?" "Because that is what decent people do, Commander. Your government sent you to attack innocent miners. That was wrong. But your crew members were following orders, just like my people follow my orders. They did not deserve to die for their leader's mistakes." The Admiral pulled up another document. "This is an offer of safe passage for all Krillian personnel who wish to return home. We will provide transport, supplies, and medical care for the journey." Thakmer could not understand what he was seeing. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. Victorious armies took prisoners and demanded payment. They did not offer free transportation home for their defeated enemies. "What do you want in return?" Thakmer asked. Admiral Sullivan smiled. "We want you to take a message back to your government. Tell them that there is a new way to resolve conflicts. Tell them that cooperation works better than conquest. And if my government does not accept this message, then they will face the same response that you faced here. Humanity will not allow innocent people to be destroyed by those who choose violence over diplomacy." Meanwhile, on the mining colony's surface, Captain Bobby Lewis worked with Zephyrian engineers to install new defensive systems. The equipment being installed was far more advanced than anything the colony had possessed before. "These shield generators will protect the entire colony from any future attacks," Bobby explained to Veltar as they watched the installation process. "But more importantly, we are establishing a permanent human presence here to ensure your people's safety." Veltar watched human and Zephyrian workers collaborating on the construction projects. "Captain Lewis, why is your species doing so much for us? We can never repay such generosity." "Administrator, you do not need to repay anything. This is what neighbors do for each other. When someone needs help, you provide it. When someone is threatened, you protect them." Near the mining facility's main entrance, Maria Santos supervised the construction of new agricultural domes. The agricultural specialist had volunteered to relocate permanently to Kepler 442b to help establish sustainable food production for the expanded population. "The soil composition here is perfect for growing earth crops," Maria explained to the Zephyrian agricultural team. "Within 6 months, this colony will be completely self-sufficient for food production." Dr. Helen Morris worked in the new research center that was being built next to the existing facilities. Human and Zephyrian scientists were already planning joint research projects that would benefit both species. "The combination of human innovation and Zephyrian precision will advance both our civilizations," Helen told her new colleagues. "This colony will become a center of learning for the entire galaxy." But the changes extended far beyond the mining colony itself. Throughout the galaxy, news of the Battle of Kepler 442 spread through communication networks faster than light-speed travel. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, Ambassador Sarah Williams received her 15th request that week for a formal alliance with humanity. Species that had never paid attention to humans before were suddenly very interested in establishing diplomatic relations. "Earth Command," Sarah reported during her daily communication with headquarters. "We are receiving alliance requests from species throughout this sector. They all want the same thing: protection from aggressive neighbors." The response from Earth was consistent across all diplomatic channels. Humanity would consider alliances with any species that shared their commitment to protecting innocent life and resolving conflicts peacefully. On the industrial world of Kepler 186f, human engineers like Captain Tony Garcia began training local defense forces. The training focused not just on military tactics, but on the principles that guided human military actions. The goal is never to destroy your enemies, Tony explained to a group of alien military officers. The goal is to protect the innocent and convince aggressors to choose peaceful solutions. The transformation was not limited to military matters. Human teachers, doctors, engineers, and farmers were establishing permanent colonies throughout the galaxy. Each new human settlement became a center of innovation and cooperation. Captain Jennifer Lopez established the first permanent human embassy on Kepler 442b. The embassy was not just a diplomatic facility. It included schools, hospitals, research, laboratories, and cultural centers that served the entire local population. This embassy represents more than just diplomatic relations, Jennifer explained during the opening ceremony. It represents humanity's commitment to being good neighbors to all peaceful species. 6 months after the battle, Veltar received an unexpected visitor. Supreme Commander Thekmer, no longer wearing military insignia, requested permission to visit the mining colony. "I resigned my commission in the Krillian military," Thekmer explained as they walked through the rebuilt facility. "I have spent the last few months traveling through Krillian space, sharing the message that Admiral Sullivan asked me to deliver." "What has been the response?" Veltar asked. "Mixed. Some Krillian leaders are angry and want revenge. But many others are beginning to understand that the old ways of conquest and intimidation no longer work. Humanity has changed the rules of galactic politics." They stopped at the memorial wall that had been erected near the colony's main entrance. The wall listed the names of all who had died in the battle, both human and Krillian. Fresh flowers were placed there every day by people from both species. "I lost many good people in that battle," Thekmer said quietly. "But Admiral Sullivan was right. They died following orders that should never have been given. What will you do now?" Veltar asked. "I am working with human diplomats to establish a new kind of relationship between our species. There are many Krillians who are tired of endless wars. They want to build instead of destroy." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a transport ship. The vessel carried the latest group of human families who were relocating to Kepler 442b permanently. Children ran off the ship, excited to explore their new home world. Veltar watched the children playing together, human and Zephyrian youngsters, learning each other's games and languages. "This is what the future looks like," he said to Thekmer. "Yes," the former Krillian commander agreed. "This is what happens when people choose cooperation over conquest." That evening, Admiral Sullivan arrived for his monthly inspection of the colony's progress. He found Veltar and Thekmer sharing dinner in the facility's new multicultural restaurant. "Admiral," Veltar stood to greet him, "how goes the expansion of human settlements throughout the galaxy?" "Better than we ever hoped," Admiral Sullivan replied, joining them at their table. 57 species have requested formal alliances with Earth. 12 new human colonies have been established this month alone. And most importantly, reports of military conflicts throughout the galaxy have decreased by 70%. "Why?" Thekmer asked. "What makes humanity so different from other galactic powers?" Admiral Sullivan thought for a moment before answering. "I think it is because we remember what it feels like to be afraid and helpless. Every human culture has stories about times when we needed help and nobody came. We decided that when we became powerful enough, we would never let that happen to others." Outside the restaurant's windows, the lights of the expanded colony spread across the landscape. Human and Zephyrian families lived side by side in a community that had become a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together. The mining colony that had once faced destruction was now a thriving center of interspecies cooperation. More importantly, it had become proof that there was a better way for civilizations to interact. The message was spreading throughout the galaxy. When someone calls for help, humanity answers with everything they have. And that answer changes everything.